east. But for this particular storm, we want to put it at 60 miles an hour, so then we get a definite indication of who's going to be impacted by this next. And we'll call it right here, and we'll go forward for the next half hour. So Ames at 5:31, so in about 4 or 5 minutes. You want to take cover in these communities because they have the best chance of being impacted by this storm, whether this is on the ground or rotating aloft and about to come down. You certainly want to take cover because at the very least there's going to be 60, 70 mile an hour winds with this cell as it heads in. Root at 5:37, Glen at 5:44, Tribes Hill at 5:48, and at 5:52 in Amsterdam. So you can see it right here, moving to the east at 60, and the list of communities that'll be impacted. I see Reed's just walked out. Why don't we see if you have any additional information, Reed?
I'm just saying we have a different view in, Paul, right now from the New York State Mesonet webcam out in Johnstown. So we're taking a look at that. I'll see if I can pop it up on the monitor behind me really quick here. But with that, you can see the banner's kind of in the way, but we have an impressive view of the wall and the shelf cloud starting to pop up in the camera view right there. So it's still continuing to move a little bit more towards the populated areas, like you're saying. Still no visual confirmation of anything just yet, but we'll be keeping a close eye out for that.
Okay, sounds good. And that's important that Reed said that we don't have visual confirmation of a tornado. It's just radar indicated right now. But with the tornado warning, we're going to stay on and walk you through it. It's in effect until 5:45. So we have our folks at the track. We have everyone in the capital region that's been anticipating some of these stronger storms over the last 24 to 48 hours. So this line is headed toward the immediate capital district. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to see a tornado, but it does look like a lot of us are going to see some severe thunderstorm wind gusts up to 60 to 70 miles an hour, and of course a lot of lightning and hail associated with these storms. In fact, let's see what we have for hail with that particular cell. It looks like inch-size hail, so that is going to impact portions of the Thruway and the Schoharie Valley as we get into the next 60 to 90 minutes. The radar itself showing very heavy rainfall of about 1 inch to 2 inches an hour. Let's see what we had in the last hour. Looks like we've had just over 1.5 inches in the path of this particular storm. Some localized flooding is possible along with it. And of course that velocity, which we like to look at because it gives us sort of a x-ray of the storm. We can measure the wind speeds and gusts in and around the storm. And this particular area, you can see the wind gusts have exceeded 60 miles an hour and 70 mile an hour winds headed toward Ames and Saratoga, or rather Sharon Springs. So heads up in these communities right along Route 10 from Sharon Springs to Ames and eventually up 10 toward Canajoharie on the Thruway as this whole thing marches to the east at 60 miles an hour. So yeah, it's a nasty looking cell. And you can see how we have some of the deeper, darker red and purple shades here approaching the areas right around Ames and Canajoharie. Let's check some of the communities. We can get even closer and talk about what's going on out here in the Leesville area and Sharon Springs, some of the impacted communities with very heavy rain and wind up toward Ames again. Take cover around Staleville and that community, as well as we do have a radar indicated tornado, and this is approaching portions of Route 10 right along 163 toward the Canajoharie area on the Thruway. I see Reed just stepped out. Let's go over to Reed.
If I can give you a second. We got a new severe thunderstorm warning, so I'll touch on that really quick, and we'll send it right back over to you so you can get an update on that. But new severe thunderstorm warning for another one of those pop-up cells ahead of that main line of showers and thunderstorms where we have that tornado warning. This one right near Catskills, so you can kind of see that severe thunderstorm warning is going to be in place until about, I believe it said, 6:30 for us here. And so we'll give it a good track. This is moving northeast at 25 miles per hour. So it'll be at Hudson by 5:39, Stockport by 5:50, Coxsackie 5:52, Kinderhook by 6:05, and Queens until at right around 6:10. 60 mile an hour wind gusts and some hail associated with this one as well. We'll take a look at the hail as we continue to track this one a little bit more. So what we're looking to see with this really is just how large of a hail core that we have. So we'll switch on over to hail, and coming in at 1/2 of an inch in diameter. So some decent sized hail out there too as this severe thunderstorm warning continues to move very slowly northeast at 25 miles per hour. That is until, again, 6:30. Paul, we'll send it back over to you.
All right, and we'll reset here at 5:30 because we have that tornado warning that remains in effect for another 15 minutes out in the Mohawk Valley. You know what we'll do for the time being? We're going to zoom out and we're going to talk about this line in general for the moment. And Reed talked about the new severe thunderstorm warnings out ahead of the line. And then along the line now we've seen some rotation as the line extends from northwestern Warren County across the Great Sacandaga Lake and then down into the Thruway area and eventually out toward Oneonta. So the tornado warning is for the Mohawk Valley. It's for Montgomery County and northern Schoharie County. It's in effect until 5:45, and we'll clear out the radar so you can see exactly where the box is. Pick out some communities here. You know them well: Carlisle, Sharon Springs, Root, Glen, all in this red box. So you may all be impacted by some strong gusty winds, and if a tornado is in fact on the ground, then you want to seek shelter. So I would get into the lowest floor, the lowest room on the lowest floor, an internal room that has no windows if you can. And that goes all the way out to Amsterdam. You have a little bit of time here in the Mohawk Valley, let's say past Fonda, but as we get a look at the radar, you can see it's dry right now from Fultonville and Fonda past Mohawk and toward Amsterdam. But it does look like the Ames area is going to get hit pretty hard in the next 5 or 10 minutes, right along 163 and then right up 10 toward Canajoharie. So again, I'm looking at this velocity, and it doesn't look overly impressive in terms of rotation, but it does show some pretty strong winds at about 60 to 70 miles an hour in here, right around Ames. So we'll wait to see if we get some reports from this area, if anyone's laid eyes on a funnel cloud or a rotating storm. We did have that shot, and you see it there on the CDPHP first warning cam. In fact, can we take that into the bigger picture? Show that I could do that from here, or if we can take the bigger picture, because it does look pretty impressive. Thanks. Yeah, this is the Amsterdam camera. We're looking to the west and out into the Mohawk Valley. So that lowering way down at the bottom of the screen there, on the bottom left, that's what we're watching. That's the storm that's way out toward Canajoharie and approaching the New York State Thruway near Sharon Springs. We'll get back to the radar in a second here. You can keep that shot up because that's a pretty good shot. We like watching that as the storm approaches. And I'll manipulate the radar here. Right over Canajoharie, it looks like that's where we have a little bit of a notch. That's where we typically see some of the worst activity, but it looks like the winds are a little displaced from the notch. And again, it's that Ames area right around Route 10 from Sharon Springs to Ames where we're seeing the highest winds right now in Schoharie County and southernmost Montgomery County, right along 20 and right along Route 10 that travels from south to north from Sharon Springs to Canajoharie. That's the area of concern right now. Canajoharie looks okay at the moment. It also looks okay at Fonda and Fultonville. I want to go over the last hour or so, and I'll show you how the winds spread from Cherry Valley across Sharon Springs and Ames, and Latimer Hill Road right now going to get some 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, and this is approaching Likers and Root. Right along, let's say, what is this road right here? We'll take a look at it. Mapletown Road. So Mapletown Road, Latimer Hill Road, that's who has it the worst right now, with a bunch of gusty winds heading toward Rural Grove and Argosville, just north of Sharon. These are the communities that'll be impacted by, again, what is a radar-indicated tornado. We're going to keep our eyes peeled on the CDPHP first warning cam. Some interesting looking clouds out to the west of Amsterdam here, so we'll keep that up, that live shot, as the storm approaches the camera site. The latest from the National Weather Service, they haven't updated the tornado warning just yet, but again, they did say that this one is radar indicated. We have some rotation within this storm. It's right over Ames right now, up toward Canajoharie and down towards Sharon Springs. So let's go back out and we'll talk about exactly who has the warning and until when? It's 5:35, so the warning goes for another 10 minutes, and it's from Carlisle and Route over to Glen and Amsterdam. Those are the communities that are in the clear right now, but you should be making a plan as this storm approaches to see if, again, if it comes in your direction, you certainly want to seek shelter in the lowest floor of your home and interior room if you can. Some of the roadways impacted right along Route 20, 162, and of course right now 10 has been impacted heavily by these strong winds. Another look at the first warning live Doppler radar. This is starting to look a little more impressive, and I'll tell you why. You see this area right here, that's the notch we always talk about. And this little area right out ahead of it, that looks like a little bit of a rotation in there as it enters into the notch. So structurally, this thing looks pretty good. I could see why there is a tornado warning out for this particular cell. Although it doesn't look overly impressive on the velocity in terms of any rotating winds, we do have wind gusts inside this particular portion of the cell that we've been sampling at about 50 to 60 miles an hour, in some cases maybe even up to 70 miles an hour. So as we sample some of the locations around, we can see that there are impressive wind gusts here. And this particular portion of the storm is moving to the east at 60 miles an hour. So again, Carlisle, Likers, Route, Schoharie, over to Mohawk, and eventually Amsterdam will be impacted by this particular cell. We're going to continue to track this tornado warning out for Montgomery County and northern Schoharie County until 5:45. You could see on the screen there how nasty it looks from Amsterdam. And for the moment, we're going to go back over to Reed.
Yeah, Paul, just a quick update. We have a new severe thunderstorm warning that really extends into the North Country where there already was a warning. They just extended a little bit farther. So we're going to touch on that and just give you guys an idea of what's going on. So into the North Country, up by Lake George, actually just to the east of it now, as you're heading into northeastern Washington County, just to the west of Whitehall here. You can see we have that severe thunderstorm warning now until 6:15. The main concern with this one, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts obviously can cause some damage with knock down some tree limbs and some penny-sized hail in the mix. So still a little hail, some heavy downpours associated with this too, but it's moving northeast at 30 miles per hour. It'll be at Clemens by 5:48, Dresden by 5:54, and Putnam by 6:03. And again, that is until 6:15 for that severe thunderstorm warning in the North Country. Now, Paul, we'll send it back over to you for any more updates.
Okay, yeah, we're going to continue with that tornado warning now, Reed, for southern parts of Montgomery and northern parts of Schoharie County. You can see here that the warning is for a good chunk of the county, but only a small area is being impacted right now. And we can show you that on the first warning live Doppler radar. Right along 10 from Ames toward Schoharie, I want to show you the potential for some wind shear inside of this storm. The wind shear is impressive at 34 miles per hour. That's another reason why the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning, because the radar is indicating some rotation in here. And of course, there's the hail potential, which is trailing behind the main core here. I think we're going to get an update on this, and we're going to see some hail in Ames. If we haven't already, right along 10 from Ames toward Schoharie, a 3/4 inch to 1 inch size hail. Also, it looks like right along 163 here. So this is the area impacted the most by this particular cell. It's a nasty one. You can see the purple colors here right below the number 10. Route 10 here between Ames and Schoharie. So again, as this marches to the east along the thruway and just south, Likers, Route, again, heads up in Fonda and Fultonville. If this particular storm holds together and continues to show rotation, we'll have to continue this tornado warning. But right now it's in effect for another 6 minutes, and we'll sample the winds again. You can see not overly impressive, still severe winds at 40, 50, close to 60 miles an hour, but I'm not seeing a ton of rotation within the velocity parameter here on the radar. But we look at it nonetheless, and the structure is still good, and we're still seeing wind shear that's measuring at about 30 to 40 miles per hour, which is an indication that there is rotation in this storm. Now, the rotation itself, it could be aloft and not reaching the ground, which is where the radar looks. It looks as a beam into the sky, so it's not ground truth reality, but it does show an indication that any rotation could spin down to ground level. So either way, we have a very serious thunderstorm going on right now from Sharon Springs through Ames up toward Schoharie with hail, winds of 60 miles an hour or greater, and possibly a tornado. That hasn't been confirmed, but looks to be very impressive on the radar in terms of its wind speed. So Likers, Root, we talked about it, up toward Mohawk, all in the vicinity of this particular storm as it moves to the east. Here are some other locations that'll be impacted. Rural Grove and Currytown at 545, 546. So you can see that this one is moving to the east at 60 miles an hour. So it looks like we'll be dealing with this into and close to the 6 o'clock hour. So we'll watch it closely here. We'll see what the Weather Service decides to do, as we don't have any storm reports yet. No ground truth observation of a tornado out this way, and it's set to expire in 4 minutes. So just to reset, we have this tornado warning for the Mohawk Valley right along the thruway from Amsterdam out toward Schoharie, Sharon Springs, Carlisle, Root, Charleston, and Ames. And it's in effect for 4 more minutes. What's going to happen here is that the National Weather Service will reassess the situation, and in the next 4 minutes, they will either take this warning down because they don't have any confirmation, or the radar will not look as impressive, or they'll extend the tornado warning if it does look like this needs to be pushed to the east a little bit more, and it's formidable enough. But I'll tell you, just from my experience here, this doesn't look overly impressive on the radar in terms of what a tornado would look like on the velocity. It does look like a lot of strong winds. It does look like some rotation, but it does not look like something that I would say would be a massive tornado. So I don't think we have to worry about that. Oftentimes what we get here are these little spin-ups, and they look good on the radar for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then they spin back down, and the Weather Service has no choice but to issue the thunderstorm and then the tornado warning. So that's what we might have going on here, because we haven't had any storm reports of any rotation or any funnel clouds or really any damage just yet. Our newsroom has been on the horn out into the Mohawk Valley, and they've been watching and checking the scanners, and right now we don't have anything to report back to you in terms of severe wind damage or anything that would be tornado damage. So we're left to believe that this is a strong thunderstorm with very strong winds and rain and hail. Of course, it could be a spin up that spun up and spun down, and sometimes these things repeat themselves, and just because it goes away, that doesn't mean the funnel cloud couldn't come back. So that's what we're going to continue to watch as we go through the next 4 or 5 minutes here. Let's see, the time is 5:43. Officially, the tornado warning goes until 5:45. We don't have an indication yet from the Weather Service whether they're going to continue this tornado warning or they're going to allow it to expire. Just from the radar presentation, I would think that they'll continue a severe thunderstorm warning for this area and perhaps take down the tornado warning, but that's just speculation on my part, because the Weather Service controls whether they continue the warnings or not. And we do have some damaging wind gusts, certainly in the offing here from Carlisle over to Root. So regardless of whether there's a tornado warning that continues or we just see a severe thunderstorm warning, we are going to have some damaging winds in this area. And again, we're talking about the Mohawk Valley here, I-90 from Amsterdam out to Fonda. Also to Root, you're getting impacted right now by some of the heavier rain. We'll zoom in. Randall, right along the thruway. We'll check on some of the area roadways, Rural Grove, Brand Road, that's 162, up toward McKinley, some very heavy rain and some hail perhaps. Schoharie still in the thick of it with some very heavy rain. Let's sample the hail, and you can see that we've had about 3/4 of an inch hail, 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch. So certainly not nothing. It's not huge hail, but noteworthy. And of course the shear, which we always like to see. But you can see on the chart at the top of the screen here, all of the shear is in the green color, which is weak. And that's why I was saying it's not an overwhelming radar presentation with this in terms of whether this is a tornado or not. So we're going to say it's probably a rotating storm. We could have had a funnel cloud. We may have even had a touchdown. We'll wait to hear from the Weather Service on that. But we still don't have damage reports, and we still don't have confirmation of any tornadic activity. All right, we're at 5:45, and they've dropped the tornado warning, which is great news, which means they're seeing what I'm seeing here, which is an impressive velocity signature with strong winds right along 162 and eventually approaching 30A toward Charleston and Glen, Mohawk, and up the Tribes Hill. Amsterdam, you're going to get some strong wind gusts too, but this is probably going to extend more into western Schenectady County. So here's what we're going to do. Elaine is standing over here. We've taken up the time, and rightfully so, because we had a tornado warning out till 5:45. We still have some damaging wind gusts possible in the Mohawk Valley and points to the south into Schoharie County around Carlisle and up toward Charleston. So we're going to leave you with that right now. We'll come back if they reissue a tornado warning. But right now, the tornado warning that was in effect for the Mohawk Valley has been allowed to expire. If we get any damage reports, we hear from local law enforcement of any wind damage or any hail size or any tree damage, we'll bring that along to you. But for now, we're going to go back to Elaine Houston with more on the news. Elaine.
Okay, Paul, we're going to take a break. We're going to be right back.
Are you off the air?
Yeah, we want people to watch.
I love you.
Crowd. Yeah.
On that one.